Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. As the channel has continued to grow, I found myself in a position to share my love of games with you, the audience. And although I typically cover games that are a bit older, with the exception of the Taking Out the Trash series, I found myself wanting to give a spotlight to some more indie titles. Whether it be demos, full releases, or betas, I have decided to give some love back to the small developers that are the cornerstone of the industry. Now, full disclosure, for today's video, I was actually gifted a key for the game. I was not paid, nor required to make a video on it, basically asked to check the game out and consider potentially doing something if I felt like I wanted to. And it actually made me want to start this series in the first place, which I'm going to title Karlec's Indie Corner. JumpMap is an FPS 3D platformer from solo developer Radiant Bear Games. It's aiming to release in the second quarter of 2025, and there is a playable demo that is available right now. It'll be linked in the description and pinned as a comment if you wish to try the game out for yourself. With a focus more so on the fun side of platforming rather than attempting to be a challenging game, JumpMap sets itself to be a great speedrunning game, as it keeps its core gameplay loop and focus as nothing more than platforming. This does have its drawbacks, as you might find yourself wanting just a little bit of something more in order to motivate you to continue. However, surprisingly, even with the lack of traditional elements that you would expect, the game actually never really feels boring. The levels themselves act as a puzzle for you to figure out, and thanks to the in-game timekeeping, you feel compelled to pretty much beat your previous times. Well, at least that's how it worked for me. I know on my first run of a level, especially the bridge level, I got lost, and I found myself wanting to come back to beat my time to prove to myself that I'm not bad at video games, I swear. Joke's on me though, I'm still bad at video games. It does mean the game isn't necessarily going to be appealing for everyone, and I understand that. However, on the flip side, it is pretty much accessible for everybody. The levels themselves are never so hard to navigate that you can't figure it out with a little bit of patience and some practice. And even though they have clearly defined pathways for you to take, thanks to the always appreciated double jump and incredibly fluid movement that the game has, you're going to end up finding yourself able to make jumps or take shortcuts you didn't know you could, really leaning into the puzzle-like elements these levels have that I mentioned earlier. There is also no real failure state or major punishment for failing a jump. This is thanks to the auto rewind feature, which upon failing a jump or falling a certain distance, the game will automatically take you back to your last safe landing, making it so you don't need to stress about some of the more difficult jumps. Getting into the meat and potatoes of the game, it consists of 21 different levels and a speedrun mode of those same levels. Each level will vary in size, but it's going to take roughly on average 5 to 8 minutes for most first attempts, with that drive for better times being the main factor behind the game's replayability. Each of the levels has a clear theme, and the platforming is going to revolve around this. Also, thanks to its very unique art style, JumpMap creates an incredible ambience. At least at the time of playing and recording, there was only a single music track, but it is important to note that it pretty much syncs up with the visuals perfectly across all the levels. It might not show as well through this video, as playing it really does drive it home, but check out this little snippet to hopefully see what I mean. Now, at this point, that's basically the entire game, and although it's a great time, it is undeniably a little bit short, at least at this point. However, I did ask Arnold, who is the developer behind JumpMap and Radiant Bear Games, a few quick questions, with one of those being, what are your ultimate goals with JumpMap? DLC, new levels, things of that nature. To which he replied, after the game launches, I plan to release a few additional levels to keep the experience fresh for players. However, my primary focus will shift towards my next project, which is currently in the early stages of development. To which I then asked for further clarification on that project because I was intrigued, and he responded by saying even though it is in the early concept phase, it is planned to be a walking simulator set on Mars, mainly inspired by other games like Soma, Fort Solis, and Titan Station. To which, if you know those games, I hope you're as excited as I am, because if you give me the atmosphere that is created here in JumpMap along with that, I think he is on track to make something special. I also asked Arnold what got them inspired to get into game creation and what made them want to make a first-person platformer, to which he responded, game creation has been a dream of mine for years, something I've always thought about but never had the opportunity for. This year I finally had both the resources and time to dive into it. Making games started as a passion project, to combine creativity with technical skills, and it's quickly become one of my favorite hobbies. I plan to create multiple games over time, and an FPS platformer felt like the perfect starting point. Its mechanics and style are manageable for a first-time solo indie developer, and I felt confident that I could complete it within a year. I also have a personal fear of heights, so designing levels that explore verticality was an exciting challenge that allowed me to push my boundaries. I know I'm inherently biased, as I did receive a copy of this game for free, as I mentioned. However, it doesn't mean I wouldn't mind seeing some things added to this game. First and foremost, at least when not in the speedrun mode, I would love to see collectible notes. I feel like having these scattered throughout, driving home stories that are related to the level's theme from just a random person's perspective, even if it was somewhat mundane, could really help bring things together. I found myself often imagining little stories for the world that was before me, such as the village level. I could imagine reading a note from a parent's perspective about their day. Today, I picked up my child after work. It was a long day. Really couldn't be bothered cooking, so I ordered pizza for everyone, which made them pretty happy. We sat around watching TV. I wish nights like this would never end. It's not something that I would say needs to be in the game for sure, but I think it is something that could help give the game an X factor in a sense. It wouldn't need to be voice acted either, because I think it would detract from the overall ambience that the game creates so perfectly. Another couple things I wouldn't mind seeing is potentially a third person mode to make some of those more difficult jumps just a little bit easier to judge the distance of, and potentially different visual or art styles that you could unlock. Though in saying this, actually implementing something like that would be way too much work to expect of a single developer, so it's more of a Karlec would like to see something different after 3 or 4 playthroughs more than it needing to actually be there. And that's JumpMap, a simple, focused, yet atmospheric FPS platformer that I will say is worth checking out. At least try the demo if it sounds like something you might enjoy, or if you're after something a little bit different. As I said, it's not going to be a game that I think will appeal to everyone, but it is a game that anyone can pick up and play. It doesn't require super fast reflexes or complex puzzle solving skills. It's a laid back experience that lets you have the ability to make of it what you will. So with that, lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, it brings us to the end of the first episode of Karlec's Indie Corner. Woo! This series will release as I feel like it, more so than sticking to a strict schedule. Mainly because I want to cover games that have piqued my interest or that have been recommended to me by you, the viewer. Now, I'm not going to check out every indie game that gets mentioned or everything that shows up in my inbox, as my ultimate goal is to shine a spotlight on some of the lesser known games, but mainly the ones that I've enjoyed. Just because I don't check out a game that's been suggested or sent to me doesn't mean it's inherently bad, it means I just didn't cover it. And that could be for a multitude of reasons, and those reasons are my own. Spreading negativity about a game and just trying to shit on it might bring in easy views, but it's not really going to be what I want to do. I can definitely critique a game and say where it needs to improve, and a game could have a ton of improvements. I mean, look at my Taking Out the Trash series, that's what it's pretty much all about. However, when it comes to indie games, these are smaller teams, less budget, less time, so being overly negative towards them isn't going to help them at all. Indie developers have basically been keeping the industry alive considering how bloated AAA games are these days. Not to say there aren't great AAA games, but look at the budgets going into them. It's absolutely insane. If you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like button. If you want to go that extra step, you can hit the subscribe button. And if you want to go that extra mile, you can support me on Patreon, Ko-fi, or YouTube memberships like these lovely people here. And with that said, I will see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.